Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to this third try of this latest episode of the Mindful LCA podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about cognitive behavioral therapy, which is Norma's most favorite topic in mental health. And we're going to talk about awareness and how we can help you guys possibly raise awareness of self, of thoughts, behaviors, and feelings, emotions. How are you doing today, Norma?
um Earlier I said excited because you take the lead today and I'm just going to be your support. Now I'm just feeling goofy because life was fucking with us for with the recording. So yeah. How are you?
Doing pretty good, pretty energetic. I already had some coffee. I was saying in the other intro that we recorded that I was excited and hyped because of Kendrick Lamar, obviously dropping the album. And then it was funny talking about awareness of emotions. I was having like a shit fucking day during those times, and then I hadn't even touched my phone. I opened my phone and my cousin sent me a link, which I thought it was a single. And I listened to the song and I was like, okay, this single's like pretty cool, but the fuck. And then I looked at that was the actual title of the album, and then I literally was like, and mood completely changed because of the fucking album dropping. And I was like all happy and shit. And then I heard the lady sing in Spanish, the mariachi singer, and I was like, what the fuck?
I have not heard that song actually.
It's
So
in three or four of them, I think.
I
So yeah, doing
I
pretty
want
good,
to.
pretty good. Yeah. So today, um, we're talking about how the purpose of this episode was how can I spread the word, or how can I help people and remind myself the importance of being aware of myself and my thoughts, my behaviors, my emotions, right? So, like I've told the story plenty of times, unaware of anything that was happening in my mind and in my feelings and anything like that, up until I had a panic attack that then started all this stuff. And when I went to therapy, it was like introduced instantly to cognitive behavioral therapy. So I want to rather explain it from my understanding rather than give you all the technical terms or whatever the hell it is, even though I know some of them. But I think it'll be more natural. And yeah, I just think it was better for me to explain it just based on how I understand it, right? So, from my understanding, what they introduced us to was the cognitive behavioral triangle. Um, so, it's how your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors affect you, and how those three things are kind of those three things can be changed, can be um yeah, can be changed and can be challenged, can be understood to help you process with whatever was happening. So I think this is a very impactful and very important thing to learn, strategy, or way of learning about mental health, because I would want to say like it almost saved my life, right? Because it
Mhm.
makes sense to me, especially with very like logical thinking. Like this is a very logical approach to it. Where the heck is mine at? Norma's eating a freaking bagel now. So
My mama brought me a bagel. I love that lady.
yeah, so it was very impactful, and then it changed my life and it helped me understand those things. So pretty much what the gist of it is, like I said, is how your feelings, your thoughts, and your behaviors affect you. So for those that have never paid attention to it, maybe as an intro thing, that there's a little voice in your head that runs your life. Right? It might be very like an introductory thing. I don't know if you never paid attention to it, but that little voice in your head is responsible for 100% almost of your life, and how you move and what you do, what you don't do, what you think, how you perceive the world, how you talk to yourself, and everything in between. Right. So then the first thing that it was is like, how do I become aware of my thoughts and what I'm thinking? So some of the strategies that I remember them teaching us is like, especially because it was a class, it was a group class with that had to do with anxiety. Was when you're having high levels of anxiety or you're having a panic attack, as soon as you gain consciousness, it was like, let's write down what were your thoughts. Let's figure out what were your thoughts there. So then I remember actually doing it and writing it down as soon as I remembered. And then the purpose is that you become aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're doing, so that then later you're able to study those things and challenge them, understand them, question them, whatever it might be, you know.
Hmm.
One of them was uh like the writing down, for example, you're thinking, what the fuck's I know would it be like, oh, I'm gonna have one of them that was happening to me was like the heart attack one, right? So it's like, oh, I'm getting I'm gonna get a panic attack, or I'm getting a panic attack or high level of anxiety because I'm running or I'm exercising, and I think that I'm gonna have a panic attack. I mean, I'm gonna have a heart attack. So then they would teach you, okay, what are the evidence for it, and what is the evidence for against it, so that then
Oh,
you have a balance and a more analytical way of seeing, is this true, is this not true. So like, okay, what is actually happening, what might be the, why do you feel like you're having one, why do you feel like you're, like, what do you feel like is not real and it's just a thought, what are the counter things against it. Another ones was taking you to the extreme, like you're late. Maybe one other example, I remember you're late for your job, and then you start freaking out, and then you're saying, well, what's the worst case scenario, and they would make you go to the worst case scenario of like, okay, I'm gonna get fired, and be like, okay, and what's gonna happen if you get fired, and processing those things to be like, okay, well, why, well, like getting fired is one option, but what is the other option, that they, you don't get fired, you get a warning, maybe they don't even do anything, because you have that term of like knitting the sweater, right, of like you getting ahead of yourself and creating those scenarios. So it was a way to be like, are you really getting fired though, how do you know that, like what are the other possibilities, or what are the other things that can happen to challenge those thoughts. um but it was also to become aware, like I said, of what it is that you're thinking, because once again, we're always thinking. That little voice in our head, or our subconscious, or whatever it is still running our lives every time on that, right? So
yeah.
becoming aware on those things. Yeah, something to say.
So that what you're talking about
Mhm.
um is called an automatic thought record. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Can we
Yeah.
show that? Is that okay? I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
is are we
You said it
are
to me.
we that's what I'm trying to do, but
Yeah.
I don't think I can. Oh, hold on. I just emailed
Because
it to
what
you.
I remember now that you said that, is it was exactly that, because our thoughts usually come in patterns, and like one triggers another one, triggers another one, triggers another one, and it's very, very quick. So the whole point of becoming aware of what was happening as you're feeling it, or right after you felt it, was to get at those thoughts lined up, to see what's the reason and why those things are happening. That was the point of that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I'm
It
gonna
is
share
it
one.
is
Go
helpful.
ahead.
Um it is it's a very helpful tool.
Mhm.
Especially if you're somebody that isn't necessarily um attuned with your emotions. This is a like a good starting point, if you will,
Mhm.
uh, to be able to.
Yep. Because another thing I wanted to mention, why our thoughts are so powerful, is that our mind, of our brain, doesn't know the difference between the scenarios that we create in our head and reality. That's why if you're able to think, um, like if I was to think something crazy, like one of my parents fucking dying, I can get myself to cry. I can get myself to feel exactly the feeling of them dying, and therefore my brain and my mind and my body, my nervous system is all going to react like if it was real. So then, if it's that powerful to create such a negative scenario and make you feel like that, then it's also just as powerful to make you feel at peace, and to make you feel happy, and to
Yeah.
make you feel relaxed. That's the thing that was like shocking to me. I remember that now as I'm saying it, I was like, oh, so the reason why I'm anxious and the reason why I'm depressed, specifically more on the depressed side, is because I've been thinking all this negative shit. Okay, what was I thinking? I was like, yeah, I was questioning my existence, questioning my life, seeing if there was a point of thing and all that stuff. And that was what was going on in my head. This makes sense. So you're telling me that all I have to do is just think positively and have more positive thoughts, or more balanced thoughts, that then for are gonna make me feel differently. And I was like, oh shit. And then it worked. it instantly worked because at first I was aware of how negative I was being with myself and all the negative things I was telling me, specifically with the depression, right? So it's important to become aware of the thoughts and what you're telling yourself, because I would say um, what we do with the healing part of it with our clients, I think, is um, reliving, taking them back to those things and giving them a different experience with different words, with kindness, with love, with things, right? Because we suffer being so hard on ourselves, and whether it was our parents, whoever raised us, or however we learn to be so tough on ourselves and so negative, that then we just create those negative thought patterns constantly that puts us in the situations of that. So it's very important to pay attention to what we're thinking, because that has the power to do it all. One exercise that I tell my clients that I don't think I saw anywhere, I just kind of thought about it on my own, is at random times, think about what you're thinking and pay attention to it. Like whenever you remember something, you can, I guess you can give it a, you can put an alarm, you can put a reminder, or whenever you become aware of this exercise, pay attention to what you're thinking. What was the daydreaming of? What was the thought pattern going in your head at random times, just so that you
Mhm.
become aware. That is one strategy that if you put to use, it'll help you become more and more aware of what's happening in your head, right? Or the other one would be, now when, same thing like they taught me, is when you're feeling some kind of high emotion, when I'm feeling super angry, super happy, super at peace, whatever it might be, that one of them is has an emotion, has a big feeling, is getting big feeling of it. Pay attention to what's happening in your head. I
Okay.
almost see it as a trigger, like, oh, I become like, I'm very sad, and I'm just sad, and I'm sad, and then be like, okay, well, what the hell am I thinking about?
Am I
Um,
sharing
yeah,
or no?
I saw it already.
Oh, okay. Cool. Um,
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
this is the one that Steve is talking about when you um like the situation that he was talking about, maybe like, okay, I'm late to work. That leads to the unpleasant emotion,
Hmm.
and then talking about like your physical stuff, like, okay, um I'm gonna get fired, right? Like the automatic thought type of thing. You put the emotions, then you start questioning, like, okay, um thinking styles, that is also part of CBT, the catastrophizing, all or nothing. That should we also do you want to share that too?
Yeah,
I also
yeah.
have those. So we'll, like, okay, me for example, thinking like I'm late to work, and like worst possible case scenario is I'm gonna get fired.
Hmm.
Um, that is a thinking style. So then you start noticing, like, what is my thinking style? Like, do I tend to go to catastrophizing? Do I tend to go to like all or nothing? Do
Hmm.
those are like the only ones that I can think of right now, but we'll show
Yeah.
them. And like, okay, like actually ask yourself, how much do you actually think this is true? Like, what's the
Hmm.
likelihood that's actually going to happen, that you're going to get
Hmm.
fired? And then you start challenging that. So then, okay, so before maybe you thought like, yes, definitely 100% I'm going to get fired, but when you start challenging it, seeing what thinking style you are engaging, and there's some questions, where it says use questions below to respond. um, I am not very tech savvy, so bear with me. Let me see if I can.
It,
Woo, I can. Um, so questions for the adaptive response. Um, what is the evidence that the automatic thought is true or not true? Is there an alternative explanation? What's the worst that could happen? What's the best that could happen? What's the most realistic outcome? If a friend were in this situation and had this thought, what would I tell them?
mhm,
Um, so this helps you with the adaptive response. And once you go through those questions, then you're like, okay, how true is it that I'm actually going to be fired? Like, I've been late to work 20,000 times before, so like I think I'll be okay. Um,
mhm.
so yes. Now let me look at the
'Cause I would
um
even say the also the important thing to think about when you're catastrophizing, how does that make you feel, right? When you're going to the worst possible scenario, how is that making you feel, right? So the thought of you getting fired and putting yourself in that scenario in your head and creating that, how does that make you feel? And that shows you the power of your thoughts, of how literally when you just think of that you're getting fired, you can feel yourself getting fired and it makes it real. That's how powerful, once again, the thought part of it is. That whatever we think is so powerful. And how many times, like, um put my wife on the spot here, she has a thing for like her being sick, like specifically anything with her stomach, throwing up or having stomach aches, and right away she
Are
goes to
putting
like,
her on the spot.
she goes all the way to the end of like, I'm gonna fucking die because I'm having a stomach pain, or it's cancer, or it's some shit, or it's whatever. So she's very sensitive to that, and she goes to catastrophizing right away, and therefore she starts freaking the fuck out. Like she starts getting worried, starts getting anxious, and it's like she even had a the day of the marathon, or the 5K that we ran. Like that day, she had a panic attack in the middle of the night because she was so concerned with it.
Mm.
But it was actually what I do with her often is like, let's get you back to connecting with your body and what's actually happening, because you're so far ahead of it, because your thoughts are that powerful, right?
Mhm.
So it just reminds me also of like, it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it, right? So what
Mhm.
thoughts you have. Like one example that was clear to me, that stuck with me from therapy and that group therapy, was like, everybody gets a chest pain. Like three people get a chest pain, right? We all get the same kind of chest pain, and then we all have different thoughts about it. One person goes catastrophizing, shit, I'm gonna have a heart attack. That makes you fucking get anxious, makes you get scared. It gives you a very, very like high level of anxiety and stuff. One person is like, oh, I'm having like chest pain, like I wonder what the fuck is going on. I wonder what it might be. It gives you some kind of like a middle level of anxiety. And one person gets a chest pain and is like, oh, I have chest pain. Cool. Goes back to whatever the fuck they were doing and nothing happens. So was it really the chest pain that caused you the suffering, or was it the thoughts that you attached to it?
Mhm.
Like it was 100% the thoughts that gave you that, right? So, like I said, becoming aware of them helps out so that you're able to identify them, and then you can start challenging them. Then you can start giving the counter evidence for those thoughts. You can
Mhm.
start thinking a little more clearly once you start doing those, putting that awareness of it. The
Yes.
other very and that exercise of thinking about what you're thinking, it's one way. The other way that I think, and it could be one of the most powerful ways if you get into it, is meditation. Because from my experience, what meditation is focusing on one thing, whether it be your breathing, whether it be the position of your hands on your legs, whether it be a sound, whether it be something there, and then you're gonna get bum rushed by thoughts constantly, right? So then is, how do I go to you the whole point of meditation, from like I said, from my understanding, then you notice those thoughts,
Mhm.
you pay attention to them, you make a mental note, and you get back to breathing, and you get back
Mhm.
to doing that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so once you start doing that constantly, you're gonna see a pattern of, this shit is bothering me. This thought keeps coming up. I should probably do something with it. What do I need to do? Is it a situation that I can change? Is it a situation that I just need to accept? What is it that I need to do with this? And
Mhm.
meditation is very powerful because it removes the fucking distractions of the bullshit that we give ourselves to not deal with the shit that we have going on.
That's why
Right?
people don't like to do it
Yeah.
because, mm, like, sometimes I'll ask my clients, right, of like, okay, difficult situation, whatever. How are you dealing with it? Like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I try to keep myself busy. Well, I try to always be doing something. I try
Hmm.
to distract myself. And I'm like, well, you're not dealing with it then. If what you're engaging in is just ways to occupy your mind, your headspace, so you don't have to think about that, that is you not dealing with it. You're not
Hmm.
processing it. So we need to actually sit with it.
Hmm.
Um, and that is why a lot of people don't like meditation because
Yeah.
all of those motherfucking thoughts will come rushing and they don't like that. They don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Um, but it is this part that you're talking about of thoughts are just thoughts, and we
Hmm.
forget about that. So then, when the example that you're talking about, like the chest pain, it's up to us the part of how we react to it,
Hmm.
because it could be like, oh, okay. I have chest pain to the like, holy shit, I need to go to the ER right now because I'm about to die.
Hmm.
Mm, so, um, yeah. So I have the list. I don't know if you can. Dame permiso, dude.
Got you.
So these are they're called cognitive distortions or thinking styles that we engage in. They're the most common ones are these tens 10 ones. I'm not able to speak today. Forgive me. Um, but um, yeah. So the all or all or nothing thinking is either if I don't get this thing right, then that means I completely have failed at everything in life. Um,
Hmm.
so it's just like um, either it's a yes or a no. There's no in between. There
Between.
is no place for gray areas.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's me. That's me literally on the example that is given there that says someone's on a diet and they have a spoonful of ice cream. So you said, fuck it. Like that's literally what I'm working on now to not do that. Because
really?
it's always like, oh, I did good, I'm doing good. And then like, especially with my fasting time, right? When I was fasting, be like the cutoff is this time, or it's supposed to be one meal. Let's say if it was one meal, then I have like se me antoja algo, or I was like super hungry because that day I did fucking cardio. And cardio usually gets me hella hungry. Then I eat something, then be like, all right, I already fucked it up. Vamos a la verga, fucking tacos, fucking whatever the fuck it is. I already did it anyways. Like it would literally be in my mind, I already fucked it up.
Hmm.
So that's something that I'm working on, that it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Hmm.
For example,
Hmm.
today I didn't fucking exercise because my daughter's sick and I can't go to the gym. I already had coffee when I usually don't, but I'm gonna be happy with it and then go for a walk or exercise later and be okay with it. It doesn't mean that because I didn't go on my usual time, I no longer fucking deserve to not, or I fucked up the day, you know?
Look at you changing your ways of thinking. I love that.
Hmm.
Overgeneralization. So when one thing happens, then it translates to like everything else in your life. So example that is getting here of like, oh, if a person rejects you, like a romantic rejection, then that means like I'm never going to have like a partner. And usually it comes with the words always or never. Like I don't know, if I drop something, I'm like, oh, I'm always dropping everything. When in
Hmm.
reality, like that's not the case. It can be often, but that doesn't mean that you're always dropping something. Um, so the mental filter. So there could from a situation, there could be very, very many things. Like right now, I'm going through a situation where um I could have been potentially being like manipulated by a human. And and in that situation, I was able to pick up like different possible things. I'm like, okay, maybe like they're trying to like do something. This is off. But because they got away with other things, then I'm like, damn it, Norma, you were manipulated. And how could you have missed that? Right. So like I'm like my mind is just on the fact that like I miss this one little detail. And because of that is like there's something like wrong with me as a person, because how could I not have caught that?
Hmm.
um when in reality like there were a lot of things where I was like, wait, there's something off here, but for whatever reason my mind right now it's not able to like see those things, like no, you did not catch this thing.
Hmm.
um yeah. So number four, discounting the positive. um so I have a client who came to see me because he was experiencing anxiety to the point of like panic attacks.
Hmm.
And we're at a place where panic attacks are no longer a thing. Anxiety is not as high. So then I'm like, oh my God, like you've made so much progress. And he's like, no, I haven't. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I still have anxiety. And I'm like, no, I understand that you still have anxiety, but from when we were at this time last year to where we're at now, like you have made some strides. Like, well, yeah, but not until I'm able to like not experience anxiety, like that is not going to count. Like all the progress. And I'm just like, what the hell? Um, So just like completely disregarding positive things and focusing on that part of like
It's like the
the negative.
imposter syndrome thing, right?
Say that again.
Like the imposter syndrome thing, where you just don't see you don't believe that you're discounting all the good things and the positive things that people tell you. You ever heard about
Mm,
that? Like people
yeah.
don't believe that you're good enough. People, you don't believe that you're doing something right. Like you just have such a negative where you're discounting the positive things that people tell about you or the stuff that you've done. I'm assuming
Oh,
that sounds a lot like the imposter syndrome, right? Because you're rejecting all the things like, oh, I don't deserve it. I didn't earn it. This is not. I'm not supposed to be here. Or all those things could be something similar to that.
I did not put those two and two together. So yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Number five, they're jumping to conclusions. So a little bit of tied to the four agreements, right? Like don't make assumptions. Um,
Assumptions.
this is literally what it is, right? If um, I don't
Someone
know.
doesn't answer. Someone doesn't answer the phone. They're mad at
Yes.
me. They don't like me. Whatever I said yesterday pissed them off. When
Hmm.
in reality, they just away from their fucking phone because they're in the shower or they're fucking outside or whatever. They're outside the
Hmm.
car or whatever.
Hmm. Yes.
Hmm.
Number six is the magnification. So you like this will be like equivalent of blowing things out of proportion. If um, I don't know, I get pulled over by the cops, then then now you just like this is the worst day of my life type of thing. Like I just like every other aspect of the day could be very good, but because
Mm.
of this one little thing, I'm just like it. It's like bigger than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Um,
I think about that like getting caught up in whatever is happening so much, like getting consumed by the issue.
mhm.
Like I think that happens when like you're so frustrated, you're so angry, excuse me, you're so sad that this feels like the end of be all of my life and it's a fucking turning point and this will forever affect my life and everything like that. When in reality I try to always think, well, like, yeah, as fucked up as it is, it's just another day, another issue that then I will look at it tomorrow with a different, much more rational thinking or much less level of emotion, and it wouldn't be as big as a deal. It's like, but did you die, motherfucker? you like thinking the day after, it feels like it's huge, but having that awareness again of understanding that it's just an issue that I'm having today, it's not the end of the world, as much as it feels as big as the emotion is.
Yes. Number seven, emotional reasoning. That based on what you are feeling, then that must because I'm feeling like shit, then that must mean life is shit. Um, so you translate your emotions into like what your life or how things actually are,
Mhm.
quote unquote. So a couple of examples that it gives here is I feel terrified about going on airplanes, therefore it is very dangerous to fly. Um, so stuff like that where I'm I'm really sad, so that must mean that my life is very sad and nothing will ever get better. I'm not able to experience happiness because right now I'm feeling sad.
Mhm.
Okay. Number eight is should statements. Um, I don't like the word should. I try to not use it as much. So you kind of like put yourself in these expectations. Um, so like for example, like this part of me right now of like with possibly somebody trying to manipulate me, I'm like I should have known better, right? Because I'm like I'm a
Mhm.
therapist, so I have this knowledge, so I should have caught these things. um so then because I didn't, then I'm feeling like very guilty, I'm carrying shame around it. um
Mhm.
so yes, they're very hurtful.
Should. Mhm.
Um, number nine, labeling. Um, hmm. So it is a little bit of like all or nothing thinking, but um, whatever, if there is a situation that is happening, then you attribute it to yourself. Like you put a label on yourself because of that. Um, for example, like with the same situation that I'm going through, I've noticed that a lot of like the label that I'm putting on myself, I'm like, how could you be so gullible? Like that I'm very gullible, that I'm very naive,
Hmm.
um, because of this situation that happened. I'm attributing it to how I am as a person.
Yeah. I
And
must be like, I got an example for you there, or like the belief of who you are, right? So I got those two examples. Like my middle brother, he was labeled as the angry wild one. So then, therefore, he took on that label and he behaved like that, like
mm-hmm,
the over the top, super happy or super angry or super emotional one. So he took that thing. And the label that was given to me was the lazy one. So then
mm,
I still feel like I'm always not doing enough and I could be doing more. Like somebody told me like recently was like, "Oh, so how much shit are you going? Like you have the podcast, you have the pictures, you have the carnitas, you have all this shit. Like, how many things are you doing?" And then not till they told me, I was like, "Oh shit, I do a lot of shit." And here I'm thinking that I don't do enough or that I don't do things, you know. So like that thing that comment caused me for it made me challenge and think of that label and trying to see if it was true or not, you know. Or
mm-hmm,
example, same thing. I think Celia would mind. Celia always somehow thought she was lazy, and then at some point during a conversation and on like these games where like we're not really strangers or those kind of games that we play with their family, like her parents told her that she was very hardworking, and she was like, "What the fuck?" Like that literally changed my perspective of me because I've always thought I was lazy because that label was given to us or we give it to ourselves at a young age and then we identify with that stuff.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And last one, personalization and blame. So it is when um you take on responsibility or blame yourself for a situation that is not entirely your fault.
Mhm.
Um, so one of the examples that is given here is like a woman's husband beats her, so she tells herself, "If only I were better in bed, he wouldn't beat me." So it's not her fault that the husband is beating her, but somehow, some way, it is becoming her fault.
Mhm.
Or the opposite of blaming, when we there's a lot of like when people think like life happens to them, and they blame outside circumstances for something that they may also have responsibility around.
Mhm.
And
Sounds good.
those are the
Yeah. Um so yeah, so those are that's the thought part of it, right? And how we think and how that affects it. We already gave the example. If you and then what I also was thinking about is the power of like the manifestation, right? Like think and be rich or like the secret, those kind of things that say you literally just have to think about something and then you create your reality because the way that you're thinking, because your thoughts run your fucking life. So then if you start thinking uh I deserve it all. I'm gonna get fucking rich. I deserve to be a happy life, or I'm happy and I'm this. You start believing it, right? Like the affirmations. So, affirmations are positive things you tell yourself to make you feel better, to make you feel happy, or to want to achieve something to give you that belief. So, it would just, I remember when I used to do them, it was like, I am capable, I am strong, I am loving, I am kind, I am brave. It was like a bunch of those. So then obviously, I mean, the listeners can pay attention if you tell yourself, I am happy, I am at peace, I am brave, I am gentle, I am loving. Like, how does that make you feel when you say that, right? It gives you a certain feeling because it has power where you repeating it and saying it over and over, you know? It seems cheesy as hell, but that's how it works. That's how I got it to understand. So for me, like I said, this understanding of what we tell ourselves and how we think um, made a big difference in my life and understanding because I was able to look at it and be like, yeah, that shit is true. Right. Now the other part of it are the behaviors. So right, so we have thoughts, feelings, or emotions, and behaviors. So the behaviors also play an impact a lot in what we do, right? Now, you want to feel better, do shit that you like. You want to feel like shit, force yourself something that you don't do, something that you don't like, right? So you like going, you're into exercising. Then if you go for a run, then it makes you feel better. Then pursue that. You know that running makes you feel happy. Pursue the running. Playing video games, listening to music, working on your garden, all those things that make you feel good, those are behaviors that can shape how you feel as well. Because what happens is often when we're anxious, often when we're depressed, we don't do any of that stuff and we change our behaviors. Change. We don't do things that now would make us happy, would make us given a feeling of fulfillment. We stop doing those things. So then by having those behaviors, doing the things that we like to do, even if we don't feel like doing them, eventually give you a positive feeling or make you feel better. So that's the power of those behaviors, right? And then the opposite side, also doing things like I said, forcing yourself to do things that you don't like, or maybe you're aware now that this behavior is not okay, like drinking, like harming yourself, like doing certain things. Then if you do those negative things, they're obviously going to make you feel bad. So that's how you can change it. One thing that I remember that worked, and as crazy as it seems, and like I said, I don't give a fuck about saying any of this shit, they taught me to smile. They literally said smile. If you smile, your brain is gonna perceive that as a positive experience. So smile. So then when I was super depressed, I would literally be like, fuck, the least I can do is smile. And I would just smile. And like it would seem cheesy and weird and shit like that of me just randomly smiling. But I can't tell you which of these strategies specifically worked the most, but all of them worked. Like all of them made a difference. So
Mhm.
then it's literally that's a behavior thing that you don't have to wait to smile. Just smile. And you because when you smile, it makes something triggers in your brain that makes you feel good, that makes you feel happy, right? Just by smiling. So that's such a simple behavior that you can do that'll affect it, right? Same thing. So that's
Mhm.
such a simple thing, and that's how the behaviors work, right? And the other thing was the feelings, and how our feelings affect us, and how they can all trigger each other, right? Feelings can trigger thoughts, feelings can trigger behaviors, behaviors can trigger thoughts and feelings, and all the way around. So, how do those feelings now affect us? Becoming aware of our sadness, of our anger, of our happiness, and how does that make me feel? Or becoming aware, like I'm sad, I'm angry, like I'm very, very fucking good at this already. I'm not gonna let anybody tell me that I'm not. I want to say that I'm very elite at noticing my thoughts and my feelings. Like I can fucking I'll tell you like right away there's something wrong with me. Like I can get in this fucking groove and I'm aware that there's something off. Like, okay, what are the fucking thoughts? Y me hago pendejo, and then I fucking pretend to not pay attention to them and get myself busy, but I know they're there. And eventually it'd be like, all right, motherfucker, there's something off, you gotta deal with it, slow down, take the time that you need to meditate, to slow down, or let's fucking sit here and try to figure out what is it that's bothering you, or what tools I can use
Mhm.
to challenge those thoughts, to accept whatever the fuck it is that's happening, the situation, or what could be changed. Right? Because one thing was like the feeling of talking about feelings, the feeling of anxiousness or nervousness would cause a panic attack on me. Like that feeling of it would just ambly be, oh, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling anxious, you're kind of gonna have a panic attack. So that feeling literally created the thoughts of a panic attack that then literally created a panic attack. So
Mhm.
those three things are all connected together and they go together. And sometimes you won't be able to notice your thoughts, but you'll be able to notice your feelings.
Mhm.
Sometimes only be able to notice your thoughts and not your feelings, right? And the same thing, you can also pay attention to your behaviors and see how those behaviors make you feel, or what they make you think, and how they're all connected, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what I was the point of this episode was like, how can we make people aware? Because that's where the healing part is, right? Like your job as a therapist is to bring them to the feeling, to bring them to the pain, and then let's see what the fuck is going on here. Let's see what's happening here. What needs to be done with this situation? What how can I help you? How can you help yourself? How can we dive into this situation? But if there's no awareness of thought, there's no awareness of feeling, you almost can't fucking heal. Like you have to get to that. You have to get to know yourself and what you're feeling to be able to do it, right? Because you, I'm assuming you question, and like from what you taught me is like, okay, how does this make you feel?
Yeah.
How does this make you feel in the shit? And then you lead to it. But without having the understanding that what is happening, what is the feeling, what is the thought, what is the behavior, then you can't get to the issue without fucking paying attention to that. And
Mhm.
yes, then I think of like, right, this just makes you aware, and it has the power to help you in understanding yourself and then changing those thought patterns. But it doesn't go deep enough to the deeper issues. It doesn't avail, it doesn't help you heal anything like that that you're not aware of, maybe that you're not doing, that then a therapist would go into in more detail. So this is kind of like, I feel like, an introduction.
Mhm.
Uh, this is something, maybe somebody that's just struggling with not such heavy feelings, heavy emotions, heavy things, that it can just be like, if you're just struggling a little bit and you felt enough, like going to therapy, or you read a fucking book and it picks this up, it can help you a lot, because it could just be like, oh, well, this is happening, you know. But we need sometimes more than this. But I think without having this, we can't heal. This is
Mhm.
like the first, this is the fucking light switch, or this is the first step to understanding this is what the fuck, oh, this is how I think, or this is what I believe, this is what I feel. And then, but why? Why do I feel like this? Why do I think like this? Why do I behave like this?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
from there, you're able to then be like, okay, shit, I don't know. Let me go find out. Let me put some thought. Let me look for knowledge. Let me read a book. Let me go to therapy. Let me talk to a friend. Let me do whatever the fuck it is to figure out why it is that I do those things. And for me, the why is the most amazing thing in the fucking world. Like getting to know the why is, it's so eye opening, and it's so amazing, and it's one of my favorite things to do with any kind of topic, right? Um, so now I have like some tips that I ask, some different strategies that you guys can try, that'll help you maybe with identifying your thoughts, your feelings, and emotions. And one of them is the journaling, right? So
Mhm.
like I already mentioned, just
Yeah.
write, just write and pay attention to what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Um, Not sure if I talked about it in this direct about it, but the last time that I was going through some shit, that I was having high levels of emotions, I was at the gym and I was on the treadmill. I was just walking, and then I was like, okay, I need to like, I'm overwhelmed. Let me see what my mind is telling me. And then I started listening, and I took on my phone and I wrote it on the notes, and I wrote it. This is the thought.
Mhm.
This is the thought. Okay, this is what I think is happening. This is happening. This is my feeling. Like, this is my thought. This is my feeling. This is my thought. This is my feeling. That was the behavior. And then it helped me kind of understand it and put it away for the moment. But now I have an outline and a guide of the shit that I need to address.
Mhm.
It's almost like the anxiety, the sadness, and the pain is speaking to me at that moment, and it's bringing up all the issues to the forefront.
Mhm.
Now I write them down. Now I know what the fuck is happening and what do I need to address. So that's literally the way that I did the journaling in that point. That I've done this at my highest level of emotion. I've done it 3 times, and it's been amazing every time I do it, because it's fresh and it's written down, and then I no longer forget to a distraction, or I no longer just let it be. Like, now it's written down, and now I know what I need to address. Uh,
Mhm.
the other one was the mindfulness, right? So practicing, understanding your thoughts. Like, one of the things they say, like, the thoughts are like your clouds. Your feelings are like clouds. They come by, and then they stay for a little bit, and then they go away. So once again, if you're gonna try meditation, becoming mindful of what those feelings are, what those thoughts are, trying to see if there's a pattern once you're done trying to meditate and all that. So then now you know what you have to address. It's pretty much the same practice. Yeah. And the other thing was about becoming aware again of like patterns, thought patterns, patterns of like your feelings, emotions, and patterns of your behavior. And then
Hmm.
start to question again why. Like, oh, I'm during this time of the, because I know some people struggle with like seasonal depression or things like that, right?
Hmm.
Okay, why do I feel sad? Do I feel depressed? Like everything, what's happening? What is causing this, that yearly thing, this pattern? Or if you're constantly, I mean, shit, you can challenge fucking everything. Like, why are you not,
That
why are you doing any kind of behavior that you do? It could be questioned and could be said, like, where did I get this from? Like, why do I eat this much? Why do I talk like this? Why do I over talk or
Mhm.
why do I under talk? Why am I shy? Why am
Yeah,
I why do I believe in science versus believing in fucking
crystals.
other stuff in crystals? Like why is that a thing, you know? But that's again, it you're seeking knowledge and asking the why, and you gain a great understanding of yourself. And then by asking why, you're able to change.
Hmm.
If you don't know why the fuck you're doing the things that you're doing, how the fuck can you change them? Right?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, if we tie it back to the four agreements, right? Of like looking at what are some of those agreements that you've made with yourself, such as like, why do I talk the way I talk? Like that comes from an agreement. Why do I eat what I eat? That comes from an agreement. All of those things, yeah, you can definitely challenge everything. As far
Mhm.
as seasonal depression, I don't know if I believe in it entirely.
Well, I personally think it's tied to an event or is tied to the feeling that you felt last time for whatever reason, and then you're just afraid of it repeating. You know.
I don't think so. I think
Hmm.
because um so we know we this is where maybe like the decolonization lens comes into play. So
Okay.
if we think about how we are part of nature, right? Like because we are nature. Um sorry, that was my alarm. Right now when it's winter time, it we need, and if we look at the nature outside of us, not outside of us, but flora and fauna, right? Like
Mhm.
the trees, the weather, like all other animals, everything slows down. This is a time for rest, for hibernation, to get fat, right? Like fatten up, just to this part of hibernation. So, what if seasonal depression is just our natural rhythm of right
Mhm.
now? I don't think I'm depressed. Oh my God. Did
Keep
I
going.
lose
Keep
you?
going.
Oh,
Keep going. I'll fix it.
um, I don't think I'm depressed right now. And right now, I just want to be in bed. Right now, I don't want to work. I've been sleeping more. Um, like my energy is definitely lower, but I'm thinking of like right now I just want to rest.
Mm.
And it's not necessarily that we're depressed, it's just because we live in a very capitalistic world where we need to constantly be doing something. Then if you're not being productive, then if you're not consuming, producing, creating, then that must mean you're depressed. But I genuinely think that this is a time to rest, and that is why seasonal depression has become a thing. Um, I mean, yes, I think with holidays, like I'm gonna call my baby sister out. She's in Mexico, right? So Christmas is for her, she says is like a, I don't care about Christmas. I don't care about Christmas. I'm not gonna celebrate Christmas until I'm back in the state, like back to the States. So in that sense, like what for her, I can understand, right? Because Christmas is a time where like it's family time where you're gathered, blah blah, and she hasn't had that for 8 years. So yeah, that makes sense that during that time she's going to have those dips. Um, but I think more than that, overall, and because capitalism, and because you're supposed to buy all of these gifts and you're supposed to have all this money to make your family happy, um and some of us don't have that kind of money, so it's like fuck, like I wish I could buy you the iPhone, however number it is nowadays, um but I can't. So I'm just gonna buy you a mug with candy in it, right? Like I think that all of that plays into it, but I don't know that at the core of it, that seasonal depression is an actual thing,
Yeah, who knows?
which is what I just
It
wanted
could just
to
be a
say.
combination of things. The thing that I think about is like, you know what's weird, and that's why I think about it like this. Even for me, shit is sad because I'm chasing my feelings of my childhood for Christmas. I just had this conversation. Every Christmas doesn't feel the same because it
Tell
never
me more.
feels like the one I used to have when I was a kid, right? Like there's people missing. It used to be big things, big parties, and I'm chasing the feeling, and I have to learn to be happy with this new version of more smaller, peaceful Christmases versus the ones with a shit ton of people and all that. And I think that people get depressed at the end of the day, or could be getting sad because Christmas reminds them of the family members that are not there anymore. Because you're chasing and you're remembering that, like, this person, you remember, like, who doesn't think of all the family members that are not there anymore for whatever reason, right? So it's partially like, yes, it makes you happy, but you're thinking, like, I know my my wife and my brother-in-law think about the grandma, and I know for there that if they're thinking about it because it happened like at around this times, then I know my suegro's thinking about it, and I know my suegra just had her mom died as well, so then she's going to be thinking I can't call my mom anymore. And like everybody, I think a lot of people just think of what they don't have anymore, and it forces you to have a Christmas without that special person, and it makes it real that way. The other shit, because there's a combination. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think that also could be a part of it. And there's also the stupid shit of changing the time that we don't need anymore because we don't live in that fucking era anymore where it makes no sense. Like I fucking since the time change, I'm sleepy as shit by like 6:30, and I want to go to bed, and
Yeah,
I'm like, what the fuck? It's only 6. Like I have to push myself to like 2 more hours of
but
just
that's
hanging
it,
around and
and
being
that's
with
what I'm
the guys and
saying.
some shit.
I don't disagree with you that is a combination of all of it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the label that has been given to it of like seasonal depression, it almost weaponizes it, or like like there's something wrong with you because you're depressed, you know. So like that part of like the stigma um around it is the part where I'm like, like yeah, like if we go back to why it's getting darker sooner, is because we need to go to sleep sooner.
Yeah, but it was to go to work. It was
Huh?
for work. It's the time change is there for work to elongate the day as
Okay,
much
not
as you
even
can
not
for
even
living
the
at
time
work.
change. Regardless of the time change.
Yeah,
The, even if like, because yes, that the time change was like the daylight saving, so you can have an extra fucking hour so you can work more, right? But if
yeah,
we didn't have the time change, that doesn't matter. The sun sets earlier.
yeah.
So if we know when the sun sets, then that tells our body like, hey motherfucker, it's time to go to sleep.
It's time to
But
slow down.
because of the capitalistic place that we live in, the we don't do that,
Hmm.
right? We need to like work, 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 work. But if we follow our nature, we should be in fucking bed by 6.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everything it all goes together.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The next little thing here, um, After we got derailed a little bit, but it's fine. It's still part of the same shit.
Sorry.
Seeking no no worries. Is seeking feedback from others, right? So maybe someone else can see your behaviors, can see marketing, and the easiest will be to spot your behaviors, but to spot maybe your feelings, and they're able to do it. Like I tell fucking how Celia even knows me more than I know myself sometimes. Sometimes she's able to point shit out before I even become aware of it. Like she'll just randomly out of nowhere, it's like, "Are you okay?" And then I'm like, "What the fuck? I'm showing signs of not being okay. Like, what the fuck is happening?" So then
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah. I'm
she's just
fine.
able to,
Everything's fine.
yeah, she's able to spot like my mannerisms already, because obviously she's been with me for so long that just anything that she sees, she's able to see the behavioral changes like really, really quick. So yes, a therapist, a friend, a coach, anybody that can help you maybe see what you don't see yourself. That's another way to gain more awareness. Exploring your beliefs and your values, which is already we kind of discussed already. Why do you believe these things? Why do you value these things? And like, how did you learn that? Why is that? And I remember from therapy saying one of the hardest things you will ever change is your beliefs, because that question's like a core thing within inside you for you to change. So yes, exploring. I guess you could actually just say that, right? Like all of this is about exploring yourself, and your behaviors, your thoughts, and everything else. Using the techniques that I already kind of discussed, which reminds me, let me share the book here. Give me 1 second. This book might have helped as much as my therapist or even more. Share screen. Because I asked my therapist, like, okay, cool, you're teaching me all this shit. What else can I do outside of therapy? And this is the Cognitive Behavioral Workbook for Anxiety. So this will give you, it's a workbook. So you work through it, you're writing, you're doing shit in there. Just to give you the description right away, learn to recognize, track, and overcome fear, break the connection between worry, anxiety, procrastination, and depression, overcome inhibition, perfectionism, low self esteem, defeat social anxiety, manage overwhelming emotions and feelings of panic, stay on track. So, this was a very powerful book, definitely recommended. Once again, The Cognitive Behavioral Workbook for Anxiety by William J. Noss. Uh, yes, take a look at it, buy it. It's relatively cheap, I think. Let me see. What the heck is on Amazon? Uh, oh, I have membership. $14 on Amazon, or I have the other stuff in there. So yes, definitely recommend that book. It was very, very, very helpful. Uh, the next thing is practice self compassion. Be kind to yourself. Pay attention to stuff. Accept imperfections. Focus on your growth and be kind, because this is a challenging thing to do, right? um, Becoming aware of all your thoughts, behaviors, and patterns and trying to change them is something that's not easy. It's something that takes a lot of work, a lot of patience, a lot of understanding, and it's one of the hardest things to do in life, I guess, but one of the most rewarding as well, because you end up, the other side of all of this is more peace, more inner peace. You know,
Yes.
yeah. Um, I'm just gonna share like the example of that I shared with one of my clients. Like I said, this motherfucker is doing amazing. He he got called out as defensive, and his thing was like very emotional, very angry, and very reactive when we first started. So he got called defensive by his mom, and he said, "I didn't do anything. Like I just let it be." And then I was like, yes, motherfucker. Like, because now we're working on the part of you being sure about yourself, that you understand that that's her perspective and you
Mhm.
don't have to challenge her perspective at all. But at the same time, what we talked about of getting feedback from friends, what I just said a little bit ago, take some time afterwards and maybe dive into that and see what was happening in the conversation and see if you did indeed were being defensive. But now
Mhm.
the fact that you're no longer reacting and that you're creating a space between your emotion or your thought to say something and you're not saying anything, like it's amazing that you're able to create a gap in there. No, so
Mhm.
he's becoming much more aware. He talks about becoming aware of like his anxiety and like sometimes getting a panic attack, and then he's like, okay, I'm getting anxious, I'm having this. So he's already labeling it. He's already understanding what's happening. He works on some grounding techniques, and he's just slowly becoming more and more like, I want to almost say like decompressed and relaxed and at peace from not
Mm.
letting those thoughts, those behaviors, those feelings just kind of like go on autopilot. Because I think that's what I was. That was me too in the past, right? You feel angry,
Mhm,
fuck it, you say what you feel.
mhm, mhm.
You feel sad, you go along with the fucking sadness hasta la chingada. Whatever it is, even with happiness, you feel happy and you do stupid shit because you're extremely fucking happy and you don't catch yourself that this okay? Is this make any sense and all that? Um. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I have. Hopefully it was helpful. And yeah, just if you're ever wanting to have some self growth and all that, these are some things that you can do to try to become more self aware, right? And the other thing, like
Yes.
I've been saying, is have the awareness also at the end of the day to know that this is where you're at right now, and you could be wrong, and or you can be right, but things can change. Be have that. That's the next step when you're able to say this is where I'm at, and you feel very passionate about it, but you say right now, this is where I'm at right
Right
now.
now.
Who knows what the fuck is gonna
But that could
happen, and
change.
jump into it. Yeah, that could always
Like
be changed.
I'm gonna quote. I have not quoted Mean Girls in this podcast, and I am very, very mad at myself because I
Hmm.
like quote Mean Girls all the time. Um, but that is one of the things that Gretchen Wiener says. Like you can think you like somebody, but you could be wrong. So it's the
Hmm.
same thing with where you're at with your mental health journey. You could be like, this is the way things are, and this is who I am or what I am, and but you could be
Hmm.
wrong.
Yeah.
But you could be wrong.
You just think about it, how all the or a lot of issues that we see in our society come from that shit. The fuck you mean you don't believe in Jesus? How the fuck can you believe in Jesus? How can you believe in this? This is not okay. There's not supposed to be gays. They're not supposed to be trans. Who the fuck told you that it's supposed to be stuck in the way that you believe it's supposed to be? So we get stuck and we identify
But you could
ourselves
be
as this
wrong.
thing we're wrong. Yeah, but always ask yourself, which you could be wrong. There could be some growth in there.
Yes.
Alrighty. Do you have anything
Challenge
else to
yourself.
say? Challenge
No.
yourself and grow and be brave. Cool. All right.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
oh
I
shit. The
the
banner.
yes.
Mindful
Yes, the
Podcast
banner.
Living. Mindful Podcast Living at gmail.com for suggestions, feedback, questions. You want to be a guest? Let us know. Um, yeah.
What
Let us.
was our motto? I forgot.
Oh, there's a thing. You gotta let go in order to grow. Let grow in order to grow. That's what it was.
Yes, I forgot. I wanted to say it. I was like, what is it? What is it?
Yeah. You
You
gotta let
gotta
go
let
in order to
go
grow.
in order to
All right, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.
grow.